now is Brazil, because of the whole turmoil in qualifying for the World Cup. And most people have written off Brazil. They no longer inspire fear. They are not as good as the previous teams. But I would like to remind people something. It's been 24 years since Brazil last won a World Cup in 2002. Well, guess what? In 1994, when Brazil won again right here in the United States, it had taken another 24 years before they won in 1994. So for people with good memory, they can still remember that. I imagine that leading up to 1994, even the qualification for the 1994 World Cup, the team was on the brink of being eliminated. The final match that Brazil needed to win in order to go to the World Cup in 1994, remember, Romario, the rebel, and yet the best player at the time in Brazil, the best forward in Brazil at the time, was not even allowed to come and join the team because the coach and the national team coaching staff had decided that he was too much of a rebel to be allowed into the team until they face death. At the time, Romario was scoring goals in Europe and winning. So they said, okay, we're going to bring him. And they brought him, and he saved Brazil. That's how Brazil qualified for the 1994 World Cup competition tournament. So it was another season of uncertainties, problems, failures, or apparent failures, difficulties. And yet, when they came to the United States in 1994, they won. So people who don't understand these things, they look at the struggles that Brazil faced during the qualifying phase for the 2026 Soccer World Cup, and they say, oh, okay, forget about them. They're nothing. But that's not true. Compare Brazil players with teams like France, okay? Spain. They're on the same level. They're on par. Are the same brilliant players, Vinicius and Martinelli, Ryan, Hendrick, and Rafinha, Bruno Guimaraes, and, you know, many of those players are doing great things in Europe. Now, the problem is, throughout the qualification phase, I think they had like, 3 different coaches? So they didn't have time to build a team because, like Carlo Ancelotti said, this is about building a team. To win a World Cup, you need a team. Not individual best players, but a team. And Ancelotti has been doing a great job of testing and I mean, he came on board in May 2025, so that's been just a year only. But Didier Deschamps had been coaching France for almost forever. The Spain coach had been coaching Spain for almost forever. So you give them those considerations and you look at the performance of the team through the international friendlies, and you can see a progression. And this team is dangerous. In fact, Brazil could emerge the winner. But on the other hand, look at Carlo Ancelotti's strategy. Okay, he's brought in all these young people. In fact, in the defense and the midfield, that's where he got veterans. Why? Because he needs them to give the team balance. But he got all of these younger players that he is grooming and preparing for the 2030. Ancelotti's, to be honest, is Vision 2030. But he can still accomplish a miracle in 2026. Okay? So do not be fooled by all these talks. Even France is a team that lacks balance. Spain is not that strong. England? Well, Germany right now, we don't know whether Germany will even participate because they are talking about, there's noise about boycotting the World Cup here in the United States. And those are politics, right? England is not such a great team. Brazil beat Croatia, the team that kicked them off the last World Cup. In fact, I'm going to put a link in the description of this video where Tito, the Brazilian coach that coached the team in 2022, is taking responsibility for that defeat vis-a-vis Croatia. And I said it in my previous video that the coach was to blame. The coach was to blame. There are moments when you stop the game and make changes and bring in fresh legs and strengthen your midfield and take up that opportunity to instruct your players. You only got 4 minutes left or 3 or whatever. Just build a wall. Don't let them in. Why did Croatia have an opportunity to play a counter attack and score the goal? That means that Brazil players had moved forward so much for what they were leading. They had a goal. All they needed was to protect that lead. And Croatia was struggling to score. So again, I just wanted to bring some of these insights because I disagree with a lot of the noise that is being made. Brazil got excellent players. They have an excellent coach. They'll be able to pull it off. Now, the lack of coherence resulting from the team not having played together under the same coach to be able to assimilate the coach's instructions and approach and system, that can play a big role and hinder them from moving forward. But even in 2002 when they won, Brazil had come out of difficult qualifying cycle. And earlier in the tournament, Brazil was struggling. I mean, the game against Japan, the game against Turkey, all those early games were really grinding. Brazil didn't look superior, but they managed to score and win. Even the game against England, Ronaldinho's goal from a free kick, you could say that was just chance, right? But again, the chance determines champions quite often. All right? Then we forget about how they scored the goal. But then when they faced Germany, it was a completely superior team. So